We're rolling into week 8. We're seeing some trades. We're seeing some injuries that's impacting fantasy football. One impactful injury that we saw was Brandon Aiyuk's injury that's going to cause him to be out for the season. And Ricky Pearsall is stepping up as that fresh rookie to look at. Coming back from injury. Came back last week in his first game, did some things. We need to deep dive Ricky Pearsall right now to see whether or not you want him for fantasy football, whether or not he's worth your time. We're going to look at the numbers, the advanced analytics, his situation, and everything else. But before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now. We're doing as many deep dives as we can on these trending players every day. 4 or 5 a day sometimes even more than that. On top of that, we're talking about the waiver wire every day, and we're using these videos to help you set your lineups by looking at the matchups. Click that button. Stop missing out. Rick Flair's right there. Do not disappoint him. But Brandon Aiyuk's out for the year. Some things are going to open up for some other wide receivers in the offense, creating some upside for some other players. Also, Deebo Samuel's been dealing with pneumonia. He should be back sooner than later. He should, but we're just going to monitor that. Hopefully he has a speedy recovery. Ricky Pearsall enters the chat in week 7, making his NFL debut, seeing 5 targets, catching 3 of them for 21 yards, looking quick and sudden on the field, getting a good route participation rate. We're going to deep dive his numbers a little bit more, but this is a solid performance for a rookie wide receiver in his first ever game. But going all the way back to high school, not many colleges wanted him. Not many teams were recruiting him. 7 offers listed over at 24/7 Sports. We did have a 40-inch vertical. That's something to note. That means he's explosive. Means he's got good pop off the step. But still, not a trendy wide receiver coming out of high school. We go to Arizona State. We have a slow start, but we start to ramp up in 2021. Jaden Daniels was his quarterback there. Both of them transfer out. He goes to Florida, and he plays with Anthony Richardson. 661 yards and 5 touchdowns in that season. But we're able to make a transition from Arizona State to Florida, transition from different offenses to a different team, to a different quarterback, all that different stuff, different part of the country, everything. The next year, we ramp it up a little bit, 965 yards, 4 touchdowns. There were a lot of highlight moments last year that you would saw if you were paying attention to college football and you're just watching the highlights or even on Twitter that day. And we're looking at the advanced metrics. He broke out at age 20, his year 3 at Arizona State, 2021, with a 22.92% target share. Then he transfers to Florida, and then he hits another 22% market share of the passing offense. That's the ownership of the yards in the passing game. Breaks out with 2 different collegiate programs. Then he puts the stamp on things in his final season at age 22 with 965 yards and a 31% market share of the team's passing offense. During this time, too, 11 average depth of target. The year prior, 17 with Anthony Richardson, getting the deep balls downfield. So we've proven that we can transition from team to team. We can break out with 2 different collegiate programs, earning a large market share of the passing offense, being a key staple of that team. We're proven to get better throughout the course of our career because that's what the numbers have been saying this whole time. We're proven to look good with different quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson, Jaden Daniels, different quarterbacks in college football. So there's a lot to like here when you really peel back the numbers. When you look at the counting stats, it's ugly. When you look at the age here, coming out at age 22 or 24 right now, that's kind of ugly for a rookie wide receiver. There's things pressed in his production profile that are ugly, him being an older prospect, him not being over the moon in production. But there are some things when you peel back that onion, you look at the numbers, you can say, hey, I can see how this guy can build some rapport at the NFL level, and then he gets drafted in the first round. The funny story about Ricky Pearsall getting drafted in the first round, all throughout draft season, I was saying, I like him as an under-the-radar wide receiver. I expect him to get drafted somewhere in the second round to surprise you. He surprises everybody by getting drafted in the first round to the San Francisco 49ers. And the thing about this, and when I peeled back that onion back then, his demeanor, how he plays the game fits this team. He's very assertive, running routes at the catch point, after the catch. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk, both very assertive at all phases. So when you're looking at what you have on the depth chart and you're looking at what's out there at the wide receiver position in the 2024 NFL draft class, And in this draft class, we had 20 or so wide receivers or around there of wide receivers who had day 2 grades or better. It's a very talented draft class, one of the most talented draft classes of all time. Ricky Pearsall was up there with the top dogs in his class. Not the top dogs, not with Malik Neighbors and company, but kind of those middle day 2 prospects. He was up there, but Ricky Pearsall fits this team. He has the speed, the size-adjusted athleticism. He's an older prospect. That's not great when you look at the spreadsheets. When you think about that, the odds of older wide receivers exceeding expectations aren't that great. But to get to that point, you got to get on the field. He's going to be on the field. The depth chart opened up. Brandon Aiyuk's going to be out for the rest of the season. He's running routes. He's seeing opportunity. This could be his time to shine. I liked Ricky Pearsall as a discount play in Dynasty Fantasy Football prior to the draft. Then he goes in the first round. He falls in rookie drafts and becomes a discount play again. Late second round rookie pick. So he was being drafted at like the wide receiver 12 or something like that. Still first round pick. The odds increased if you're drafted in the first round because that team has sunk cost invested in you, which more than likely they're going to give you opportunities to prove yourself, opportunities to fail, opportunities to succeed. The injury history here going into the season is what you want to look at here. We've been dealing with some injuries here. A minor injury while working out ahead of training camp. He missed some time in training camp and then came back. And then as you all know, he got shot and he came back from that as well. That being said, Ricky Pearsall's had his moments where things just did not go great, that was out of his control, and he had to ramp up, come back from that. That might allow him some additional ramp-up time to get better and acclimate to the NFL game. However, when you look at this offense, Brandon Aiyuk's gone. 46 targets in this offense is zapped. 22% target share. Juwan Jennings was out. He's getting a 21% target share. He is the safe bet off the waiver wire. We already did the video on him, though. You can check that out in the archives, which was yesterday. But we also need to talk about Ricky Pearsall. In that video, I said I was going to do a video on Ricky Pearsall because Ricky Pearsall deserves it, considering his prospect profile and everything. There's some upside here. And the fact is, Deebo Samuel has been in and out all season long. Juwan Jennings has been in and out all season long. Ricky Pearsall, the hot prospect, the first rounder to the team, likes him. He's a very sudden, nuanced route runner and can create separation. He's only developed throughout the course of his career. In the offseason, he was working out with Tyreek Hill, working on his route running, working on getting better. This guy has done nothing but improve throughout his career. That is one thing to look at. But when you look at this team, they used him a lot last week. 31 routes ran. This is his first ever NFL game. 31 routes ran, 83.8% route participation rate, 5 targets. Of course, Deebo's out, Brandon Aiyuk's hurt. Of course that happened. Brandon Aiyuk was in on 43.2% of the routes last week, so he was in on a lot of the game. 5 targets still went to Ricky Pearsall. He got a target early in this game as well. That being said, he's going to get run in the offense. He's going to be used. Another play to look at is Jacob Cowing. He also broke out with 2 different collegiate programs, UTEP and Arizona. Another wide receiver to pay attention to. Ricky Pearsall, though, an 83.8% route participation rate. His first ever NFL game after dealing with all these injuries. That says something about him. He's a huge upside play for the rest of the season. And looking at Jacob Cowing, because I want to talk about him. Prime prospect. A prime late round prospect. A 4th rounder that could surprise you somewhere down the line, especially if these injuries start to bang up worse, because he broke out as a freshman at UTEP. We are very productive there. Then we go to Arizona. We break out again. There's this wide receiver named McMillan there. He's solid. He's solid. He shared the field with him, was still able to get over a 20% market share of the team's passing production. That being said, Jacob Cowing is a player to pay attention to. Crispy route runner. He's good in the slot. He's good all over the place too because he's that nuanced. He's a player to pay attention to over the course of his career. Maybe at the back 9 of the season next year. But he's going to be on the field. We got the 4.3 speed. We can stretch it too. This is a very good wide receiver to look at. But with Ricky Pearsall, you're looking at a wide receiver that's probably going to step into that Brandon Aiyuk role and try to give you similar results. It might look a lot different, but we do have some things in this game that you may want to take a look at. You don't want him because he's a rookie wide receiver. This is very ambiguous. You like Jennings better, which you probably should. He's the safer asset. He's already hit this year. But the thing about Ricky Pearsall, very good route runner, very sudden, very quick, very technical, good ball skills. And you may want to stash him or watch this through to see what happens with him and see what kind of market share he can take over in this offense and how quickly he can climb the ladder and how many routes he's going to run per game. Because if he's running a lot of routes per game, he's still sitting on waivers, especially next week. You need to pick him up. Maybe he's still on waivers next week. I think in a lot of leagues he probably will be. You may be able to pick him up next week. But if that route participation rate's high, no matter the results, you need to be looking at him because he's a rookie wide receiver. Rookie wide receivers take time to hit in fantasy production. When I look at him compared to the top guys like Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr., get out of here. He ain't touching those guys. But he's a guy that is nuanced enough, talented enough, in an offense that pushes it to the wide receivers in these weird game scripts, that could give you some fantasy production. That could really do something for you down the line. That could really be a surprise play for you in fantasy football. The depth chart's open for him right now to take over. He's got the talent to do so. If it happens, that's a different story. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.